Welcome back to ADHD Whiskey. My name is Matt, and today we're discussing 5 great single barrel bourbons that have never made a top 5 list before. Before we get into this list of 5 bourbons, let me tell you about today's video sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by IntoTheAM.com. IntoTheAM.com has some of the best clothing you could ever imagine, or I could ever imagine. They've got some of the best clothing imaginable, and guess what? It's time to save some money. Currently, right now, through November 26th, IntoTheAM.com is running their Black Friday sale. You're going to save between 30% and 80% site-wide. Graphic tees like this bad bugger, graphic tees starting at $4.99. Basic tees starting at $6.99. Click on my link in the description below or use code ADHD10 at checkout, and guess what? Save another 10%. Great company, great clothing, great deals, great Scott. Go to their website and buy some clothes. Now that we're warmed up and lubricated, let's get into 5 great single barrel bourbons that haven't made any of my top 5 lists before. These bourbons are in no particular order. They're in no particular order, but I'm just gonna grab them and go. These 5 single barrel bourbons aren't going to be on my list of 5 top single barrel bourbons, but they're dang sure good enough to talk about. Single barrel bourbon number 1. Peerless. Peerless Distilling, DSPKY 50. Distilled, aged, and bottled on the shores of the Ohio River in Louisville, Kentucky, America. It's got a heavy cork. It's got a barrel-shaped bottle. It's kind of shaped like my body. It's just a beautiful bottle design. These are all non-chill filtered and barrel proof. They don't add any water and they don't add any BS. Peerless is a craft distillery in downtown Louisville. If you're ever in Louisville, hit up the distillery and take a tour, because it's a pretty sweet place. The bourbon there is fantastic, but the people there might even somehow be more fantastic. It's a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey with no age statement on it, so it's a minimum of 4 years old. And the cool thing about Peerless single barrels is they're all super unique. These can be wildly different. Like, for example, this one tastes like barbecue and burnt ends. You never know what you're gonna get. Like Forrest Gump said, life is like a box of Peerless bourbon. Life is like a box. Life is like... I can't even do it. Life is like a box. That's not it. Life is like a... Nope. I gotta find Bubba. Lieutenant Dan. I drank some. Peerless single barrels, they're gonna run you about $80. If you've never tried one, give one a shot. Staying in Kentucky and staying in the beautiful city of Louisville, let's get a Nulu single barrel. These Nulu single barrels are all MGP. They're MGP, but they can be delishy. This particular bottle came from a barrel selected by the great, fine, huge, ginormic ADHD Whiskey. That's me. They're not distilling their own stuff, but they are doing cool stuff with barrel finishes, toasted barrels and finished barrels, and even just straight barrel strength, non-chill filtered MGP bourbon. That's what this is, a 5-year MGP. If MGP bourbon is up your alley, then Nulu might be right directly up your ass, because it is great, wonderful, red licorice MGP juice in a glass receptacle, a glass container, a glass. It's in glass. You're done in Louisville and you're like, which way do I go now? E-brake, spin a U-turn, and you're headed northeast up to Newport, Kentucky, to New Riff Distillery, where the bourbon don't sucky. This is a New Riff single barrel, also non-chill filtered, also bottled at barrel strength. This one's 113 proof, minimum 4 years old, and it's distilled, aged, and bottled on site at New Riff in Newport, Kentucky. Just like the Peerless, these also vary widely in their flavor profiles. Some of them have a delicious sweet standard bourbon profile, other ones are more floral, other ones are more char-like and barbecue. Matter of fact, I personally just picked a barrel of New Riff with one of my patrons, and it's going to be available to my Patreon community any day now. If you're interested in that, click right there. Just click right there. The fourth single barrel in this lineup isn't anywhere near Kentucky. Matter of fact, you're going to want to put on your cowboy hat and head out west. We're going from new Riff to Old Elk. Old Elk Distillery is in Fort Collins, Colorado. Their master distiller is Greg Metz. Greg Metz, remember him? He used to do all the MGP stuff and OKI stuff. That guy, that Greg Metz. Like 96% sure that MGP is contract distilling for Old Elk. This isn't a typical MGP mash bill. Matter of fact, what Old Elk is doing is using a bunch more malted barley. Standard bourbon has like this much malted barley. Old Elk bourbon has like this much malted barley, and that's what separates them and makes them a bit different. They're really good. I really enjoy them. I've had a few and I've liked them all. That brings us to our fifth and final single barrel that I've literally put in no particular order. These were just 5 single barrel bourbons that I never put on a top 5 list before. So I figured let's put them on a list for no particular reason at all, except for I like them. The fifth and final single barrel that I think is great, but hasn't been great enough to put on a top 5 list elsewhere, is Woodenville. Woodenville straight bourbon whiskey, cask strength. The cask strength one is the way to go. It is delicious. It says privately selected barrel on it, so you know it was selected privately. This son of a single barrel comes from Woodenville, Washington. It's a craft distillery. They're a minimum of 4 years old. This particular barrel was just over 5 years old. What they're doing up in Washington is delicious stuff. This is super delicious bourbon, you can tell. I've had some. I've had a little bit. This bad boy rolls in over 121 proof. I personally think that Woodenville whiskey gives you the craft experience, gives you the craft bourbon experience without over crafting it up, without it being too crafty, if you know what I mean, without being too weird and funky and like out there and not drinkable. Woodenville is still crafty and still a bit like, a little bit like what? But also a little bit like yum. And I like it. And I love it. And I want some more of it. Woodenville, cask strength, single barrel bourbons, definitely try one. If those 5 didn't satisfy you, then what's wrong with you? You're just too picky, you unsatisfiable son of a bitch. Or if you're like, you know what, Matt, you lied. You put Peerless single barrels on a list last year for something, and I forgot until now. In which case, whoops, my bad. Here's another single barrel I've never put on a list. Four Roses single barrel. Are you happy now? Are you happy now? I also like this. I like it a lot. This one's an OESQ, 20% rye mash bill, 9 years, 6-month-old, selected by bourbon enthusiasts, 124.8 proof. Lovely son of a mother. My name is Matt. This is ADHD Whiskey. Those were 5 or 6 single barrel bourbons that I've never put in a list before, that I've never listed in a top 5 video before. So was that interesting or what? Yeah, it was. Like I always say, keep your head in the clouds, but your mind on making lists in videos about whatever the hell I want. I'll just do whatever I want. There aren't any rules to this. I'll make a list about anything, and I'm gonna. And you might not watch it, but some of you will. A lot of you will. And I'm going to keep them coming. Top 5 bourbons to watch top 5 videos to. How about that? Maybe that one will make the cut. Maybe I'll do that one next. There's no shortage of top 5 lists. There aren't. And if you're sick of them, then top 5 reasons you should continue watching top 5 videos even though you're sick of them. Maybe that video will hit you hard and hit you right where you need it. And if it doesn't, top 5 reasons you should stop getting upset at YouTube channels who make top 5 videos all the time. Boom. There's another one. These are all headed your way. They're all coming, slowly but surely. They're all coming, and they're all coming hard. this Christmas.